Australia. A secluded island continent with an abundance of creatures found nowhere else in the world. Among them, many species of animals with pouches, known as marsupials. One shares a common ancestor with the koala, but is far less widely known. Meet the wombats. With their thick-set, low-slung bodies, wombats look like small bears. But these slow-moving and solitary creatures are elusive burrow dwellers, whose best form of defense is their backside. They live in a world where night is their day, poop is cubed, and looking for a place to sleep provokes some sudden flashes of temper. This is the secret life of the wombat. Close to the cool highlands of the Snowy Mountains in southeast Australia lies a secret world. Within these sun-dappled groves live a group of very special creatures. Benny is just one of the many bare-nosed or common wombats living here. He's been named by the conservationists who protect and observe this area, known as Wombat Wood. The wombats here share this expanse of trees and dense foliage, thriving on the temperate climate and moist habitat. The wood is a place of peaceful refuge. And for any wombat, the safest place of all is his burrow. There are around 100 burrows in Wombat Wood, where the wombats will sleep during the warmth of the day. Wombats are some of the largest burrowing mammals in the world. They like to tunnel into areas of uncovered earth, beneath the roots of trees, or under the sides of rocks. While a burrow usually only has one main entrance, underground there are tunnels up to 3 meters long. These open into cool chambers where the wombats snooze. Millie is unable to regulate her body temperature when the outside is over 25 degrees Celsius. So, like any wombat, she'll stay in her cool subterranean sanctuary until the temperature drops in the late afternoon. The lack of oxygen in a burrow, combined with a slow metabolism, will keep Millie sleepy. Wombats can sometimes stay in their burrows for as long as 19 hours at a time. Only once the outside temperatures match the cooler conditions of her burrow will Millie emerge. Millie is behaving cautiously and comes out backwards, presenting her toughest side to any potential predator, such as a fox or dingo. Her rear end is actually her best defence. She has a tiny concealed tail, and her rump is fortified with a solid cartilage plate and skin up to 1 centimetre thick, which acts as protection against a bite. If need be, Millie can barricade the burrow by jamming her back against the roof, potentially trapping and suffocating a predator against the walls. Once she's emerged, Millie remains vigilant at the burrow entrance until she's sure it's safe to move. Meanwhile, Benny is a more confident wombat and wastes no time in emerging face first from his burrow set under a tree trunk. Wombats come in varying shades of grey and brown, but Benny is distinctively dark. At 5 years old, he's also one of the most assertive males in Wombat Wood. As mostly solitary animals, wombats don't have a clearly defined social hierarchy. But Benny may fight over food or mates, and the battle scars on his right leg point to past run-ins with other males. He's heading straight for foraging. Benny has a classic wombat's heavy gait. His legs are short and his feet are plantigrade, meaning he walks with his whole foot flat on the ground. Typical of an animal that walks more than it runs. His back feet have 2 fused digits and a clawless stub, which are used both for digging and scratching off dust. Wombats can take their time heading out to forage, sniffing the air and taking in the sounds of the wood, often waiting near the burrow entrance for a while. Millie's eyesight is poor as she spends so much of her time in the dark, so she'll rely on her other senses to check for predators. Millie's ears set on the side of her head are well placed to collect sound efficiently. But above all, she'll rely on her sense of smell. She has a keen olfactory system, and the openings of her nostrils and nasal passages are both extremely large. Once she's reassured of her safety, Millie moves away from the burrow. Sniffing as she goes, Millie starts to venture further. Benny heads towards the open pastures at the edge of the wood where he can feed. This is part of the area where he lives, travels, feeds and scratches, known as a home range. A wombat's home range can cover as much as 25 hectares, but if there are good places to burrow and plenty of grass, it can be a lot smaller. And it will also overlap with lots of other wombats. He may not care to interact with them, but Benny will be familiar with the wombats that share his home range. And he'll know if there's an intruder on his patch. Male wombats may not fight over territory, but they will compete over mating or the best feeding spots. Older male Benny likes to check out who's been around. Other wombats will have left him messages with their droppings, or scats. And then it's his turn to leave a calling card, both for other male wombats and to let the ladies know he dropped by. Wombat poop is unusual. It's very dry due to their fibrous diet and cube-shaped. Benny can lay up to 100 compact pellets a night using special bones in his backside to form the scats into cubes. The shape helps them stay in position and not roll away. It's likely that Benny's cuboid communication gives other wombats information on how big he is, his age and breeding condition, and may warn other wombats not to feed in his preferred spots. While younger, less assertive males will leave their offerings in a more concealed setting, a dominant wombat like Benny will make sure his superior scats are left in prominent places so they can't be missed. Because his sense of smell is so much better than his eyesight, his scats may also serve as landmarks so he can smell where he's been. Once upon a time, Ken would have asserted himself by moving all around the wood to lay droppings. At around 35 kilos, he's a large wombat, and his ragged ears suggest he hasn't always led a quiet life. But now, at 15 years of age, he's retired from mating and lives right on the edge of his old home range. A wombat can live as long as 20 years. He likes to check out who might be near his burrow. But mostly, he spends his time foraging and scratching. Scratching is a form of grooming. He won't lick his fur like other mammals. Instead, he'll scratch the dust off after sleeping in his earthy burrow. He can reach most parts of his body with his front or hind paws. And rubbing against a branch or tree trunk is always popular. As a herbivore forager, Benny's in search of a variety of grasses, moss and tree bark. He's happy eating tough, fibrous plants, difficult to eat and to digest. Benny's teeth are tailored to match his diet. They are rootless and never stop growing, so they won't be worn away by constant grinding. He can also use his sharp claws to dig up roots and his long incisors to bite through them whole. Digesting tough grasses also means that Benny's metabolism is slow, particularly when resting for long periods in the burrow. It can take him between 8 and 14 days to fully digest, which can be useful when food and water are scarce. Benny moves very slowly around the wood. He's constantly cautious, smelling warily as he goes. A whiff of anything unfamiliar will put him on his guard. And if he's uncertain or something startles him, he reacts at surprising speed. Wombats may be ponderous and slow movers, but when they need to, they can run. They can accelerate up to 40 kilometers an hour in seconds and keep it up for short distances, usually to head to the safety of a nearby burrow. While wombats may have a home range, they don't depend on using the same burrow each day. If a wombat needs a place of refuge or a bed for the night, he will often head to the closest place he can find. Teenage wombat Alabama has currently bagged one of the best burrows in the area. It's well positioned in the roots of a tree in the middle of the wood and has a wide entrance with plenty of cover. Alabama has distinctive front teeth. But that's not the only thing about him that's unusual. Even while burrow hopping, most wombats prefer to keep their burrows single occupancy. But Alabama has a roommate. His burrow buddy is another male, 3-year-old Boston. He's like Alabama's little brother. Alabama's always the first out of the burrow. He's the one to take the lead. And when he gives the go-ahead, the much more timid wombat joins him. But before they go anywhere, they must make sure the coast is clear. And that can take a while. The light is fading by the time they venture out. These boys have an unusually close friendship for wombats, and that may be due to their start in life. They were both found as orphans and were hand-reared and later returned to the wild together. Without mothers to give them the security and confidence a baby wombat would normally get, Alabama and Boston learned instead to rely on each other. Most wombats will feed no closer than 3 meters to another wombat. As darkness falls, wherever Alabama goes, Boston is close behind him. Under the cover of darkness, all is quiet in the wood. The wombats find their way about, stopping to listen and smelling the air as they wander and forage through the night. They will generally avoid each other and use their sense of smell to keep their distance. As the first fingers of morning sunlight spread their way across the wood, it's time for the wombats to make their way back to their chosen burrows. Benny takes a last sniff of the morning air, then dives into the earthy burrow to settle down for his day's sleep. But while morning is bedtime for most wombats, one little wombat has got his clock upside down. Billy has recently weaned from his mum Millie and started living on his own. At just over a year old, he's young to have left his mother. This usually happens at around 18 months. Usually when young wombats leave home, they stay in their mother's home range. But Billy lives closer to the edge of the wood. He's still uncertain about independent life as an adult wombat. He prefers to come out of his burrow just as the other wombats are headed to bed. As a smaller, weaker wombat, Billy may be nervous of larger males and won't want to compete for feeding. So he emerges during daytime when he knows no other wombats will be about. He can take his time scratching, as he doesn't have far to go to feed. He's chosen a handy burrow with nutritious long grass growing near the entrance. Slowly, he braves moving further from the burrow. But he picks up the scent of something he doesn't like, most likely another wombat, and it's enough to see him scurrying home. Meanwhile, Alabama stands guard at the entrance to his burrow to ensure that no one else will be joining him and Boston in their chosen spot while they sleep. Picking up the scent of another wombat, he ventures out. It's Millie, who's checking to see if the burrow is vacant. Alabama hurriedly moves back to block the entrance. Millie's raised paw shows she's uncertain. She doesn't dare to approach any further. But she's not the only one with designs on this centrally located burrow. Older female wombat Wilma has moved away from the burrow she last used in search of better foraging. Suddenly, she's startled by passing kangaroos. She heads straight for the nearest burrow. But it's Alabama's. Wombat aggression is often verbal and enough to warn off a would-be squatter. And Alabama emerges to make double sure she's gone. Only now can he and Boston settle down to sleep. Winter has arrived in Wombat Wood. Being so close to the snowy mountains means that snowfall is not unusual here. The wombats' burrows are well equipped to cope with lower temperatures. Even when they drop below zero above ground, burrow temperatures will not go below 12 degrees Celsius. And the wombat's coarse fur and thick skin means that they can come out to feed even when there's snow on the ground. It's late afternoon. Benny's making use of the cooler weather to do some burrow maintenance. Wombats are amazing earth movers. Benny's solid feet and long claws mean he can shift a metre of dirt in a few hours, walking backwards out of the burrow to bulldoze the earth clear. He will drag in vegetation, including grass, twigs and leaves, to line his resting chamber. And while he stands around 25 centimetres tall at the shoulders, he can compress himself to squash through a 10 centimetre gap if he needs to. He emerges, spattered with sandy soil. He's cautious today, constantly sniffing the air. Picking up the scent of something dangerous, Benny hesitates. But hunger must be getting the better of him. Even though the danger he got a whiff of hasn't gone away. A fox is smaller than a wombat. The average bare-nosed wombat usually weighs around 30 kilos, whereas a fox is no more than 14 kilos. but a fox can still attack and give a wombat a nasty bite. In winter, foxes also like to shelter in wombats' burrows, spreading parasitic mites which can make the wombats ill. The fox spots him and veers away. Benny may be one of the most assertive males in the wood, but even he decides it's best to wait this one out. Only when he's certain that there's no threat does he cautiously come out and start his day all over again. As spring approaches, the winter snow gives way to rain. Lots of it. And the wombats take cover. Over 400 millimetres falls in just 2 days. The worst rains in living memory. Most of the wombats stay sheltering in their burrows. Few are willing to come out for long. Only Wilma is prepared to ignore the downpour to forage vigorously for several hours. Her thick fur affords her some protection, and the cool, damp conditions mean that she can come out earlier in the day, as she won't be at risk of getting too hot. The drenched grass here is a good way for Wilma to take in water. Wombats rarely drink. They only do so when there's not enough moisture in the plants. But even being well equipped for the weather doesn't tempt the other wombats to come outside. Heavy rain like this can pose problems for the wombats. Several of the burrows are completely flooded, including Alabama and Boston's coveted under-tree spot. It's not uncommon for wombats to die this way. Rising water can trap them in their sleeping chambers. But while some of the wombats need to find new burrows, Wilma remains unconcerned. She's come to no harm during the extreme weather and is still picking her way around patches of waterlogged ground to feed. As the sun finally reappears, the other wombats slowly start to emerge. Millie has moved to a new burrow on the outskirts of the wood. She's been doing some earth moving. The deluge means lots of burrow maintenance is needed to clear out the mud now that the water has seeped away. Millie's broad head with its strong skull and her powerful shoulders and legs mean she can make short work of moving large amounts of soil. She can even push rocks out of the way with her head if she needs to. Her eyes, set in the side of her head, offer some protection from the earth when she's digging. Millie keenly sniffs the air. The rains have breathed new life into the wood, leaving a whole range of aromas for a wombat's powerful sense of smell to sample. The reappearance of Alabama and Boston on higher ground confirms that they managed to get out before their burrow flooded. They spend time feeding together before checking out a new burrow. As the evening approaches, something extraordinary happens. Boston comes out without Alabama. He's testing out his independence. But he doesn't last long. He only forages for a short time before making his way back to Alabama. The days are getting warmer now, but the return of the sun doesn't herald brighter prospects for little Billy. He's moved to a burrow even further out of the wood. And appears more disoriented. He keeps foraging in the middle of the day, which is becoming increasingly risky. As the year rolls towards summer, this behaviour will make him more vulnerable. Unable to thermoregulate, he won't be able to cool himself easily if he gets too hot. And as the sun gets higher in the sky, it could be the heat that finally sends him dashing back to the burrow. Benny is also unharmed by the rains and is making up for lost time. Since his close shave with the fox, he's had the run of the wood. In one night, he can easily cover several kilometres. Wombats can spend longer above ground and extend their home ranges to take in more distant feeding areas before the temperatures rise during summer. After almost continuous grazing, Benny starts to eat more sporadically. Then he stops at a familiar spot to rest. Maybe he can stay here. But he doesn't head directly into the burrow. Only when he comes back out, it becomes clear what made Benny hesitate. Millie follows him out to let him know that he is not welcome here. When angered or threatened, a wombat can hiss or make a sound not unlike a pig's squeal. As an assertive male, Benny could be interested in mating Millie, but he retreats without a fight and is forced to set off in search of somewhere else to rest. He makes his way to another burrow. His sense of smell might tell him that there's someone home. But if he thinks he can force his way in, he's wrong. Once again, this visitor isn't welcome. And when the burrow owner appears, it's Alabama. And right behind him, Boston. But for Benny, it's going to be a long morning looking for a place he can call home. With most of the wombats safely in their burrows, all is quiet in Wombat Wood. Wherever they've chosen to rest, these solitary and elusive marsupial burrow dwellers can finally settle down for a day of slow digestion, energy preservation, and peaceful sleep.